The 2020 Chicago Bears schedule has finally been released. What record are the Chicago Bears going to have this season? What is up, guys? I'm back with another Bears offseason prediction video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more Bears highlights, more Bears content, more Bears analysis, reactions, predictions, and so forth. And guys, I'd been looking forward to this day for a long time. First of all, because we have no other sports news to talk about whatsoever. So any sports news I get at all, it makes me pretty excited. And second of all, I look forward to the Bears schedule being released every single year, because just thinking about next season, thinking about who we're playing, trying to predict matchups, trying to predict, our week-by-week record, and just imagining scenarios in my mind of what's going to happen when, and just thinking about the next season overall, it makes me so damn excited because I live for football, man. I love the sport of football, and just thinking about next season, thinking about what could possibly happen, it makes me really excited. Now, we still do not know if games are even going to be played next year. Fingers crossed they do, because I really don't think I can live an entire year without football, man. That would be a horrible year. So we're not even going to talk about it yet, because there's still a lot of time in between now and September. So anything could happen. Hopefully something does happen. Even if we do have to play games without fans somehow, hopefully games are still played, because football is a big part of all of our lives, and we would hate to not have it for a year. But nonetheless, man, let's talk about this Bears schedule. And guys, first of all, I have to say that this is a very favorable schedule. Like, if I had to make the schedule myself, I would probably make it very similar to this, because I think it honestly gives the Bears the best chance of having, their best record possible this season. And you guys have to realize that the scheduling of the games, when you play each opponent and where you play them, it does truly matter, okay? Because there's a lot of outside factors in football that you can't really control that do have somewhat of an impact on the game. Like, for example, if you play 3 extremely tough teams in a row, it's going to limit your chances of winning all those 3. But if you kind of spread them out, it's going to be a little bit easier. And when your bye week is, that makes a difference too. These things do make a difference. And man, I truly think the Bears schedule could not have been laid out any more perfectly, as you'll see right now. So in this video, guys, I'll be going game by game, predicting each week if the Bears are going to win or lose that game, and also giving you guys a final record prediction as well. I did a season prediction video like this a couple months ago, before free agency and before the draft happened, where I predicted the Bears to go 10-6, but that was way too early, before we knew who we actually drafted, who we got in free agency. At that point, I didn't know we were going to get Robert Quinn or Nick Foles or Jalen Johnson or Cole Kmet or anybody, so I didn't have much information back then. But I do have the information right now. But even then, it is pretty early. A lot of things could still change before now and the beginning of the season. So stay tuned for my final record prediction, which is going to be like a couple weeks before the season actually starts, which may change a little bit more even from this video. But at this point, we do have enough information to do a full record prediction week by week. So let's begin, guys. So week 1, we got the Detroit Lions in Detroit. And thank God it is not the Packers for once, because I'm sick of losing to the Packers in week 1 in a heartbreaking way 2 years in a row. I probably cannot stand to play them again the opening week, because that would have sucked. And if you guys look at the Bears schedule over the past couple years, we cannot win our opening game no matter what, okay? Ever since the first year of Mark Trestman's reign in Chicago, which was 2013, 7 years ago, we have not won our opening game since then. That's a truly pathetic stat, because it shows you how much the Bears have struggled over the past decade. Winning your first game, it gives you a boost of confidence, it gives you some momentum to start the season with, but we have not had that in over 7 years, which just sucks, man. So winning this game should be a priority for the Bears, and going up against the Detroit Lions, a team that we should definitely beat, a team that we've swept 2 years in a row, that should hopefully give the Bears their first 1-0 start since 2013. So I'm predicting the Bears to win here and beating the Lions in Detroit. Next, we got the New York Giants for our first home game of the season, and I think the Giants are going to be a little bit better next year, at least a little bit better than people realize, because they did add some pretty big upgrades on offense and on defense. Getting that help on the offensive line, getting safety help, that's all going to help them next year, but I still feel like this Giants team is at least a year or two away from truly competing. So I don't think they're going to be a match for the Chicago Bears. And we did beat this team last year. I believe that was at home as well. And, with our upgrades on defense, I think it's going to be a tough time for Daniel Jones and the crew. So I have the Bears going into Soldier Field, beating this team, and moving on to 2-0. After that, we got the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, which is, again, another very winnable game. It's a team that did not make the playoffs last year, a team that, although they did upgrade at some areas over the offseason, they did lose also in the offseason. They lost Austin Hooper, replaced him with Hayden Hurst. And even though Hayden Hurst is a pretty good football player, he is no Austin Hooper. And, I do like they got Todd Gurley, they got Dante Fowler Jr., so they did get some key talent in key areas. But if you look at this team overall, man, it still does not have a very good defense at all. So I feel like if it's Mitch out there or Nick Foles, it really does not matter, because whoever is going to be out there, they're going to have some success throwing the ball against this defense. So I have us going into Atlanta and beating this Falcons team pretty handily to move on to 3-0. Week 4, we got the Indianapolis Colts at home. This is, again, a winnable game. It's a team that did not make the playoffs last year. So, man, if you look at the first 4 games of the season, there's a really good chance that we could honestly go 4-0, which would be absolutely crazy. I mean, I don't remember the last time the Bears went 4-0. So it would be really nice if we went 4-0, but statistically, that's going to be incredibly hard to make it happen. And I also think that people are underrating the Colts this year, okay? Getting Phillip Rivers, that was a pretty big acquisition, because if you look at Jacoby Brissett last year, he had one of the best offensive lines to work with in the entire NFL, but he still cannot make much happen. And, Phillip Rivers, I feel like, is a pretty good upgrade over that. And, overall, the Colts defense did get a little bit better as well. So I actually have the Colts beating us in a close matchup just because of the upgrades they made and because of the offensive line they have. I feel like it might neutralize our defense to some extent. So that moves us down to 3-1. Then we got Tom Brady and the new look Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home at Soldier Field on Thursday Night Football, man. This is going to be one of the most exciting games of the entire year. If you look at the Buccaneers, man, they upgraded pretty much everywhere. Okay, Tom Brady, they got Gronkowski, they got help on the defense, they got help on the offensive line. They are a stacked football team right now, but I still have a lot of questions about their defense, okay? That Buccaneers defense is still largely unproven, and man, Mitch Trubisky torched this Buccaneers secondary just a couple years ago. Now, I know it's not anywhere close to the same defense. They did make some upgrades. They did change the defensive line as well, so it's going to be a little bit tougher, but whoever it is out there, man, Mitch or Foles, I think they're going to have some level of success. And our defensive line and our pass rush going up against Tom Brady, who is an immobile quarterback, I think we're actually going to have some level of success, and we're going to go into Soldier Field and steal a game against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to move us to 4-1 on the season. Week 6, we got the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. I think it's going to be a dub for the Bears. I'm not going to talk too much about this because although the Panthers did get Teddy Bridgewater, they did upgrade a lot on defense. They actually used all 7 of their draft picks on defense, getting Derek Brown, getting Gross Matos. They have some solid young talent now on defense, but offensively, I still do not believe in them. And when you go up against a defense that's going to be as good as the Chicago Bears defense, if you do not have at least an average offense, I think you're going to fail. So I have the Bears going into Carolina and beating the Panthers to move to 5-1. After that, we go to LA for a Monday Night Football matchup against the Los Angeles Rams, a team that defensively we have done really well against over the past couple of years. You saw in 2018, we completely dominated them, shut them out. You saw in 2019 where our offense was really having a lot of trouble, so we did lose that game. But defensively, we did play a good game against Jared Goff. If you look at this year, man, the Rams have so many holes on their roster. They don't have Todd Gurley anymore, so they have really no running game right now to speak of. And, Jared Goff has always struggled against this Bears defense. When you add a player like Robert Quinn now to the mix, it's going to make things even tougher on him. I have Jared Goff having a terrible game in this one, and the Bears going into Los Angeles and beating the Rams. Next, we got a home matchup against the New Orleans Saints for Week 8. And guys, I'm not going to lie, this is going to be a really tough matchup. Probably the toughest matchup even of the entire season. Because if you look at the Saints roster, man, on both sides of the football, they are stacked. The only question I have right now is if Drew Brees is getting too old to play the game of football. Last year, he did take some steps back in certain aspects. Okay, he's not as good anymore, like throwing the ball down the field. But everywhere else, man, accuracy-wise, he was still pretty good. So if Drew Brees does take a major step back, I see the Bears maybe winning this one. But otherwise, I think the Saints roster, man, it's just a little bit better than the Bears right now. So even if defensively we have a pretty good game, I think that offensively we cannot keep up with the Saints. So the Saints are going to win this one in Soldier Field in a close matchup. Week 9, we got a matchup against the Tennessee Titans, the AFC Championship finalists from last year. And guys, I think it's going to be another pretty tough matchup for the Bears because if you look at how the Titans roster is constructed, it matches up pretty well with this Bears defense because running the football effectively, that's really the only way you can attack a defense with a pass rush this great. You saw that Josh Jacobs on the Raiders last year, he pretty much destroyed that Bears defense by himself, and that opened up so many things for Derek Carr in the passing game. So I feel like something similar is going to happen for Ryan Tannehill and the Titans. So I have the Titans winning this one, especially being in Tennessee, to move us down to 7-3 on the season right before a matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. So yeah, after that, we got a Monday Night Football matchup against the Minnesota Vikings at home. And if you remember the last time we played the Minnesota Vikings at home on Monday Night Football, that was Trubisky's first game ever in the NFL, which we barely lost. Guys, if you look at the Vikings roster and what they did over the offseason, they lost a shit ton of talent on both sides of the football. Now, they did recover some of that through the draft, obviously getting a receiver to replace Stephon Diggs in Justin Jefferson, to replace some people in that secondary, getting Jeff Gladney, that's a pretty good move, and Cameron Dantzler as well. But these are all rookies, guys, and rookies take some time to get up to speed in the NFL, and they also make a ton of mistakes usually their first couple of years. So if you're going up against a team like the Chicago Bears that has so many veterans on both sides of the football, defensively we pretty much all have veterans besides our number 2 cornerback spot, and on offense we have a lot of veterans now as well. I think going up against a rookie-filled team like the Vikings, I think we're going to win this matchup pretty handily. And, also, if you look at Kirk Cousins, man, he struggles against this Bears defense. And we have dominated him with this Bears defense over the past 2 years. I just don't see the Bears losing this one, especially in Soldier Field. So I have the Bears winning against the Vikings. So then we got the bye for Week 11. I'm so happy our bye is this late in the season because I never like an early bye for a variety of reasons. First of all, because you usually don't have that many injuries that early in the season. But by the time it's like Week 11 or Week 12 or anywhere beyond that, man, you're getting pretty tired because you've played a lot of games. You have some injuries piling up. So this is a pretty good time for the Bears to take a break and recover a little bit. So I like the bye week being this late. After the bye, we got a Sunday Night Football matchup on primetime television against none other than the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. And guys, up to this point, we have only played 2 divisional games. So even if we're at 7-3 at this point, we haven't played that many divisional games. And you guys know that you need to win divisional matchups to actually win the division. So, winning these divisional games after our bye is going to be crucially important to making the playoffs for the Bears. And man, do I hope the Bears can pull this one off in Lambeau Field because we rarely beat the Packers in Lambeau. The last time was the Brett Favre retirement night in 2015, I believe. And, we've rarely beaten the Packers regardless, okay? Even at our own house, we've barely beaten the Packers. So just getting a win against the Packers would be so nice. And especially in a season like this where the Packers had a horrible offseason, one of the worst offseasons they could possibly have. They did not fix that run defense whatsoever. They did not get that second receiving option opposite of Devontae Adams. So this is a winnable game for the Chicago Bears. But they still have Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like in Lambeau Field, he is going to do pretty good against our defense, even though our defense is going to be freaking elite. I feel like somehow, some way, he is going to be able to pull it off because that's what Aaron Rodgers does, unfortunately, but it's okay. Losing one game to the Packers is no big deal. Wait until Week 17, guys. Week 13, we got the Detroit Lions at our own house in Soldier Field, and this is going to be a dub, guys. I won't spend too much time talking about it because I just do not see the Lions being a really good football team next year. They are going to be a little bit improved, but they are still like 1 or 2 years away from truly competing for the NFC North. And even then, man, they have question marks all over the roster. Trubisky has dominated this team over his career. So if he's out there, I expect that to continue. And even if he's not, I think Nick Foles can dominate this team as well if he's actually our starter at this point. So whatever the case is, guys, I feel like our defense is going to neutralize this Lions passing attack, and offensively, we are going to have success against this pretty mediocre at best Lions defense. So we're going to win this one in Chicago. Week 14, we got the Houston Texans at our own house. And if you look at what Bill O'Brien did over this offseason, it does not make a lot of sense whatsoever. Okay, replacing DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the entire NFL, with Brandon Cooks, getting rid of your starting strong safety, Tashawn Gibson, who came to us, the Chicago Bears. Like, there's a lot of questionable things that Bill O'Brien did with this team. And offensively, guys, I don't think Deshaun Watson has enough firepower around him to beat a defense like the Bears defense. So I have us going into Soldier Field and beating this Texans team pretty handily. Week 15, we got the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, and I already gave you guys my thoughts on the Vikings offseason, so I'm not going to do that again. But if you look at how much the Bears have dominated this team over the past 2 years, I feel like statistically, even if the Bears are the better team this year, I feel like statistically, we are bound to lose at least one to them, and I think that's going to be the one that's going to be on the road. So purely for that reason, okay, and for the reason that, sometimes crazy things do happen in football. Sometimes the better team does not win. And also, this Vikings team is still not bad. It's still a pretty decent football team. I think the Vikings are going to beat us in Minnesota to move us down to 9-5 on the year. And then week 16, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. The Jaguars are not going to be a very good football team because they did not upgrade again, substantially anywhere really on that roster. They still have a quarterback that's pretty young, that doesn't have too many weapons around him. So I feel like if this is going to be the Nick Foles revenge game, he's going to do pretty good. If Trubisky is out there, he should be able to get the job done against a pretty, mediocre Jaguars defense. So I think the Bears are going to win this one to move on to 10-5. Right before the last game of the season, the Green Bay Packers in Soldier Field. I am getting nightmares from 2013, Chris Conte's blown coverage. This better be the revenge game for what happened in 2013. I know that practically none of the players on the roster right now were around for 2013, besides, I think, Sheriff McManus. So the players do not remember that game, but us Bears fans, man, we remember vividly how heartbroken we were. Now, at this point in the season, being 10-5, we would have probably already clinched the playoffs, at least a wild card berth, but we might still be fighting for the NFC North. So this could honestly turn into the NFC North title game yet again. And I really feel like the second time around, the Bears would win this and finish the deal. The Packers did not do enough to help Aaron Rodgers over the offseason, and this last game of the 2020 season, I think it's here where it's going to come back to bite them in the ass, because defensively, I feel like our pass rush is going to get to Aaron Rodgers, and our secondary, only having to cover, really one elite receiver, they are going to lock up the other guys and also lock up Adams too, because they can just focus on Adams there. And offensively, man, it's always a challenge going up against the Packers, even when the Packers do not have a really good defense. But if we can just get some sort of a running game this year, you just pound the rock against this Packers defense, because they have an absolutely terrible run defense, as the 49ers showed us in the playoffs. And again, they did not do anything at all to make it better. So I really feel like the Bears are going to go into Soldier Field and beat the Packers to maybe clinch the NFC North and replace our pain from 2013 with happiness. So there you have it, guys. I have the Chicago Bears finishing 11-5 on the season. I already know what the comments are going to say. I'm delusional. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a homer here. I'm a Bears fan, so obviously I'm going to say that. But guys, come back to this video after the 2020 season. I guarantee I am right, okay? People are disrespecting this Bears roster so damn much just because of one bad year. And even in that bad year, we still went 8-8 with injuries on defense, with our offense being like literally the worst in the NFL almost. If we just take some steps forward on offense, we don't have to be a top 10 offense. If we are even like top 17, and if our defense, stays healthy the entire year, we are going to make the playoffs. So I don't care, call me delusional if you want, but I'm willing to place money on the Bears making the playoffs this year. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Give me, guys, your record predictions as well, and let me know what you think about the season as a whole, because there's still so much to talk about. I'll be coming out with a lot more videos in the coming weeks, just more predictions, more analysis, because you can never talk enough about the Chicago Bears. But as always, guys, bear down.